Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Coal Country Podcast, where we discuss everything WVU sports. I'm your host, Ian McIntyre, and as always, I have Tyler Cobb, Matt Howe, and Max Remy behind the camera. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
I'm happy to be here. How are you doing, big man?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Tyler?
I'm happy to be here as well.
I feel as fit as a fiddle.
That is a very West Virginia answer.
That was.
That is a very West Virginia answer. And, you know, it's a good thing we're happy after yesterday's game, which we'll get to it. We'll get to it, but it's disappointing in its own little way. So, starting off the show here, we got a whole bunch of things to talk about. College football playoff, men's hoops, women's hoops.
All kinds of good stuff.
Yeah. Maybe a little sneak peek way too early, top 25 somewhere in the mix. We'll figure it out as we go along. This is an organic podcast.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and jump into men's hoops while it's fresh on the mind. On Saturday, men took on number 2 Iowa State here in Morgantown. Jerry West night. Probably the best game I've ever been to.
Electric atmosphere.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was nuts.
Attendance, 14,444. Couldn't be any better.
In quotations.
I know.
Well, I told Matt, I was like, I wonder if they intentionally only sold that many tickets so that they could say that, or if they just, kind of made the number up.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it had a chance to be a coincidence, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Then again, like if there are scripts in sports, I'm going to roll with the script as long as it's in favor of us. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm going to roll with it. A whole bunch of nice tributes to Jerry West the whole night up on the Jumbotron. Got Hot Rod talking about Jerry West, Rod Thorne talking about Jerry West. Pretty cool to watch all those videos. Anyway, we got the big dub, 64-57. It was weird for me when I was at the game and the very end happened, and the score was announced as 55, and they didn't change it to 57 in the arena at all. I thought it was really weird, but then whenever I went back and watched highlights, I saw it was 57. I don't know. It could have been a missed bucket somewhere. Maybe they didn't count the last shot they made at the end. But weird thing for me, I guess. But Javon Small. Let's talk about Javon Small.
Legacy game, man.
Absolute legacy game. You want to go ahead and expand on him a little bit?
Yeah, I can. I mean, we'll hit the good news before the bad. This was, I think I said, and I will stand by that, I think it's a top 3 sports moment that I've witnessed live on television or in person. And it's definitely a top 3 sporting event that I've been to in person. Up there with Pitt last year and Penn State this year. Javon Small carrying the load for this game, 27 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals, an elite stat line. And I think he did get Player of the Week because of it. Well-deserved by him. He shot pretty well, too. 9 for 16 from the field. Didn't hit a ton of threes, 2 for 7, but perfect from the free throw line. So definitely put the game on his shoulders, carried the team to a much-needed game against a big team, especially with what happened yesterday. Entered West Virginia's name back into the national. I can't
national conversation.
There you go, national conversations.
And it just proves that we're world beaters, honestly, because we play Kansas and we beat them in Allen Fieldhouse for the first ever time. We beat Gonzaga in our pre-Big 12 play tournament. I forget where we played, where that tournament was.
Bahamas?
It was Bahamas. I thought it was Cancun for some reason. We've played in the Cancun Classic before, so that's why I was... we beat Gonzaga in the Bahamas. We beat Kansas, and then we beat Iowa State. We beat number 3, I think Kansas was number 2 at the time, and we beat number 2 here. So
a lot of good wins, and then a couple bad losses.
Yeah, so we got the loss to Arizona. Whenever I was watching that game over the Christmas period, the vibe felt off like the entire day for some reason. Like looking through WVU Sports Twitter, Instagram, all the social medias, like the vibe was off with everybody. And you could tell the guys were tired. We came out and lost by 18 in that game.
Oh, I don't remember, but I mean it wasn't good. So
it was not a good game. Effort was lacking the entire time, and that's kind of what we saw last night with this Arizona State game. But anyway, we'll talk about Iowa State just a little bit more. defense was phenomenal the entire game. It seemed like any time Iowa State got on a little bit of a run, we answered. Our game plan was fantastic because we figured out how to use our post players once again to minimize the doubles on Javon coming off screens. And that opened up a lot of passes around the floor, got open threes to guys. The turnover margin was insane. I know Matt was talking about Sincere Harris a lot of the game. Do you have a stat line pulled up?
I can get.
He didn't have a good game offensively, but he had a good game defensively.
Yeah, the atmosphere was there. He was bringing a lot to the table. Let me look down.
I want to, before he gets to it, I know you pointed out Hansberry as your game MVP, even though Javon clearly had the, MVP
Well,
game.
Javon was the MVP. But
Hansberry kept the game open for us to win it. Like
Absolutely.
every time that Iowa State felt like they were going to take a run in the first half, Hansberry was there to hit a three. He shot 50% from the 3-point line. And I want to say this too, because me and Matt talked about it after the game, was although this is an incredible win for West Virginia, I felt like it was more of Iowa State playing a really bad game than it was West Virginia playing a really good game.
yeah.
Now, it wasn't a bad game from West Virginia per se. I think we did play well, especially Javon Small, but it wasn't necessarily a great game. And then when you look at how Iowa State performed, like they just looked sluggish the whole time. And when you shoot 1 for 17 from 3-point percentage, that's going to hurt you. So whatever you were going to say about Harris?
So Hansberry obviously had a great game. He was the only other scorer than Javon Small to get into double digits with 12. Sincere Harris, though, he had 2 offensive rebounds, 3 defensive rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, a block. He was just on top of it the whole time. And you could tell watching the court that he was moving around through space really well and stopping a lot of the things that Iowa State was trying to do, offensively and defensively. So I just thought he looked really good out there.
Yeah, I was about to say that it looked like he had more than 2 steals.
He's one of the better perimeter defenders, like on-ball perimeter defenders.
I think everyone as a team it felt like they were playing together a lot better.
To me, in that game, the biggest factor out of anything was the crowd, by far. Almost a sellout. I think they marketed it as a sellout.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Jerry West night, but the crowd by far was the biggest factor to me. It kept the guys in the game the entire time, kept Iowa State on its heels a little bit. It was so loud in there. It was so loud in that Coliseum that I guarantee you they had problems communicating plays.
The 2 I remember specifically is like it was really energetic in the first half, and we obviously came out of the half leading. But then the 2 that stick out to me was the crowd pop first when Javon hit that step back 3 around the 2-3 minute mark. I don't remember exactly where it was. And then again when they were playing from behind at this point, and they tried to get a quick bucket, and we had a steal, and then the Javon dunk at the other end. Like the crowd pop
Absolutely.
during those moments was electric. An incredible atmosphere to be in.
It was the loudest I ever heard that Coliseum. For me, I watched that game, and I think a key, it may not have been the biggest key, but a key that I really appreciated was there was 8 minutes left in the game, and we were down by 6. And we got stopped, and they took up almost the whole shot clock defending us, so we had to find a way to hoist something. Javon came off the screen.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, Javon came off the screen. They doubled him, and he spun in between the guys and shot a one-handed floater, and it banked in.
And he did that twice, too. He did at the end of the shot clock. He did one during the first half, too. It wasn't quite the ridiculous spin move that he hit,
Right.
But he did it twice.
That spin move, I think, is what allowed the guys at that point to see that we could win that game, because it had been close the entire game. I think the biggest lead up to that point was Iowa State's 6-point lead. So it reassured that we could stay in the game, even like the crowd reacted. But I think that assured them that we had spent all this time going back and forth, and finally Iowa State gets something going where they score 3 straight baskets, and we're looking for an answer. They shut us down on defense for a possession, and we turn around and do that. I think it kept us in it.
I mean, that was definitely a great moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was what gave the guys the spark on the field.
I honestly don't think there's too
I said
much
field,
more.
courts.
Matt said the same thing last week. He said field. I remember.
It's all a field to me. I use them interchangeably.
Well, yeah, it's whatever.
Arena.
Garrett Green on the court.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's not all the same.
He's probably a baller. Didn't you say sometimes the football guys go to the rec center?
I've seen him there before. I've never seen Garrett there before. I've seen Rodney and Hudson, but I've seen Rodney and Hudson there. I saw a few other guys that have graduated now, but I've seen him there before. Yeah,
Well,
Rodney was he a 3 or 4 star recruit? I think he was a 3-star.
Yeah.
3-star basketball recruit coming out of high school too.
Mm-hmm.
He was recruited for both sports, so
crazy.
they got some hoopers on the football team too.
Dude, we got some hoopers here, regardless of the short man rotation, regardless of the down games. Speaking of down games, let's segue to Arizona
Oh
State.
gosh, not a good one.
It wasn't a good one. The margin is a little bit smaller than how the game felt. It was 65-57, Sun Devils. It felt like it was a 20-point loss. The main key to the game, before we even talk about specific plays, which I don't even remember that many, to be honest, rebounding numbers.
Yeah. Man, I don't even know. I'm just going to give a little rant before I go too much into it, because you have off games, and I get it. Everybody has off games, like we said, or like I said at least. I don't know how y'all felt about it, but I thought that the Iowa State win for us was more about Iowa State playing very poorly and then just us using those opportunities, taking advantage of them. And this was essentially the opposite, where we were not playing our greatest game and Arizona was taking advantage of those opportunities. So my spiel is this. If you want to be a good football... apparently I've got football in my head. I've said field football team.
If you want to be a good rugby
If you
player,
want to be a water polo, if you want to be a good basketball team, you have to beat the teams that aren't as good as you, okay? You can't just beat number 2 ranked Iowa State and then fall flat afterward because you beat number 2 Iowa State. I can pull the tweet back out if y'all want me to, but the whole hangover game or trap game, you cannot let that happen to you if you want to be a good basketball team and make a run when it comes to March.
I agree.
You cannot let that happen. And the tweet made it say that there was a lack of effort, which I agree with. I know you said you disagree with, and we can get into that. But you're right. The biggest difference was the rebounding. And if you're a small team and you want to beat a team that is playing essentially 2 bigger guys in the paint at all times, which Arizona State was, you have got to give 110% effort the entire game. I don't care if you're tired from playing number 2 Iowa State. I know that they said Sincere Harris was sick before the game and that it had been going through the locker room a little bit. But our mantra has been no excuses. I mean, we wear T-shirts with that on it. You have got to give 110%, not only against Iowa State, not only against Kansas, not only against Arizona or Gonzaga, every team you play. And that includes Arizona State, even if they're at the bottom of the league. That's my spiel.
My take on it, before we get to the effort thing, I want to talk about pressure a little bit. Just the pressure of winning games. We really had no expectations going into conference play. We won the games we were supposed to win, right? We beat Gonzaga. There were no expectations on that Gonzaga game. I think we were expected to finish 5th or 6th in the tournament anyway. Going into Kansas, we had absolutely no expectations. Tucker was out, right? And we were like, if we walk in there and lose by 15, we'll be happy.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way we expected it to go. And we won. You become ranked and you become nationally relevant. There's a little bit more pressure on you there. The only game I can argue where we had true pressure, I wouldn't even call it true pressure, though. We had pressure, but we won, was Iowa State, Jerry West night. That was the pressure of having a packed Coliseum and honoring the best athlete the state's ever seen
Yeah.
and winning. And we did that. But the Arizona State game was a classic case of we're ranked. We have an expectation. Arizona State is lower in the conference. I'm trying not to say something I shouldn't. Arizona State is a lower team in the conference, and the expectation is you beat them by double digits. And we just haven't been able to fulfill the expectation, and therefore we feel more pressure as a result of it until eventually the fans just let off the expectation, and then we beat somebody we shouldn't again. I feel like it's a recurring theme. Like we said it yesterday after the game. We play Kansas State next, right? Mm-hmm. That's who we play. And then we play Houston. It would not surprise me whatsoever if we beat Kansas State.
Drop out of the top 25. Houston comes here, and we beat Houston by double digits. Because that's just what we've been doing.
It seems like it's our theme.
And we talked about this during football season. The thing you said about pressure, it's like Arizona State has nothing to lose. And by no means am I saying that this loss ruins our season. You're in year one of a head coach. You had minimal expectations coming in. But you've now set some expectations, and you're making your life harder. Don't lose to teams you should not lose to. I don't know how, like, I feel like that sounds so dumbed down at the core, but you just can't do that. All right, what? You look like you're dying to get in it, because I know you had a disagreement with the lack of effort.
Yeah, so I do disagree with the lack of effort. And I also want to say, so my opinion is you can go out there and work as hard as possible over and over and over again, and you're going to get worn down. And when you have an 8-man rotation, and it's not you have 8 guys that can go in and play 40 minutes. You have 8 guys that are playing total. Some of them you put in 35. Some of them you put in 5-6 minutes. It's not a full 8 men that can go out and play, or that you want to go out and be playing the whole time. And you've seen that wear down over time. You can see it when we get our Kansas run, and then we beat Oklahoma State on the road, then had to go play on the road again against Arizona, and we got whooped. You know, same thing. We went and beat Colorado, then back on the road to Houston, got whooped. And again, great team. You come home and the energy's there. You play your heart out, and you get out what you put in, and so we got a good win then. But then to go and have Arizona State come, you just played a Final Four caliber team, and like balls to the wall as hard as possible every second of the 40-minute game. And you can't expect, especially with illness, you can't expect that same level of performance when it's just boom, 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 and there's no rest. Iowa State has a far deeper roster. Obviously, they're a really good team. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been ranked 2 in the country, and they were at the top of the conference at the time. They can sub out guys and have all-stars go in the whole time. So, the effort, I think, is there, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any of these wins against big teams. I do think Kansas is always overrated.
Well, I'm not saying that the effort isn't there for some of the games. I mean, you could tell in the Iowa State, everybody on the team was going as hard as they could to win that game, and the crowd was feeding the energy.
And that was something, I think it was Eduardo Andres said. He was like, we need the fans there.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what won the game. We feed off that.
But, and I understand it. Like, you're coming off a game where you had to put every ounce of energy that you had into it, and it's a short turnaround. I mean, it's not like you get a week off like the football team does. You've got from Saturday to Tuesday is your next game. You've got Sunday, Monday off, and you're practicing in between. So I agree. When you have a 7-8-man roster, you're gonna get worn down throughout the season. But that's why you have to take advantage of these games when you're at home in an atmosphere at home, like your home atmosphere, and it's a team lower in the conference standings that you're favored against. That's why you have to take advantage of these games. And the biggest issue, even outside of the rebounding, is that we are living and dying by the 3. And when other guys are on, like Jonathan Powell and Hansberry are hitting their shots, it opens up Javon Small to, have kind of like a takeover like he did against Iowa State. Jonathan Powell and Amani Hansberry were keeping the defense in check. Nobody was hitting shots this game, and I mean nobody. Jonathan Powell wasn't, Hansberry wasn't, Javon Small wasn't. I mean, if you look at the shooting percentages alone, we shot 13% from three.
We shot 31% from the field, 14% from three.
Yeah, and like I said, you live and die by the three. You went 4 for 29 for three, and you only took 58 shots. Like 58 is not a terrible amount of shots. That's pretty good amount of shots. But when more than half of them are 3-point shots, and you're not making them, you're gonna lose the game. Especially if you're not getting offensive rebounds and second chances. Like I'm shocked that we have more shot attempts because they out-rebounded us 14-9 on the offensive side and then 32-19 on the defensive side. I mean, it was an atrocious rebounding game for us.
Yep, my biggest gripe with this game is rebounding. And like to Matt's point, like they're tired, obviously, with a short rotation. But like you were saying, you got to take advantage of these games. And like Matt said, you get out what you put in.
Like, they're the ones on the road. They're the ones that are flying from Arizona to West Virginia. They're the ones that are changing their typical time zone that they're playing in. And speaking of, like, this is off topic, but there is no reason that an East Coast team should be kicking off at, 9 o'clock? That's horrendous.
Yeah, it was a very, very,
I just
very
said
late
kicking
game.
off again. Tipping off.
But it was to cater to their market.
That's true. But, I mean, still, we're the one ranked. It should be to cater to our market.
I want to point out
An atrocious game. That's all I have to say.
When Iowa State came and we played them, they also out-rebounded us, only by 10. But the turnover margin, we won in both games. 14-4 for Iowa State. For Arizona State, Steels, it was 11-4. So
I think in the Iowa State game, it was our shooting efficiency.
Yeah, well, I mean, comparatively, we had a horrendous shooting game against the Sun Devils, but that happens, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's why I said this is not the end of the season. Like this is. I'm hoping, and I truly think that this is the low point. You're not going to have a worse game than this.
I agree
on the rest of the season,
especially shooting wise. You are not going to shoot worse than 31%.
Like typically, if you're having a bad shooting night, there's at least one guy that can come in, make the shots, and give the team a spark. And that guy is normally Javon Small. And he wasn't there today. I mean, 14. I'm sorry, he wasn't there yesterday. 10 of his 14 points were from the foul line.
We should have brought in Jake Ora. I feel like we should have played Jake Ora yesterday.
That's a good question. I don't remember if we talked about this last time, but I wonder why we don't put in more
defense
bench players. It's
just
the
defense
defense
and
isn't there.
rebounding.
I don't remember which game it was, but they finally they put Jake Auer in for some like legit minutes that weren't garbage time, and he gave up like 3 defensive possessions in a row that were really poor. And so when you're down big and minimal time left, I get you might need a spark from beyond the arc, and Jake Auer can be that guy. But this game, for the most part, was relatively close, even with the final score not. I mean, it's not that big of a.
Two things.
8 points? Yeah.
Two things. We needed a spark of shooting, and I feel like you could have provided that for us. And second of all, in the later part of the game, like the last 8 minutes or so, the way that they got their points was once we started full court pressing, the rule of our defense was if they throw the ball to the corner or the side of the court, you go double them. And it worked 2 times in a row. Like you saw it, we tipped the ball twice and got it back twice. And I don't think we took advantage of either opportunity. But since that was working, we decided to implement it in the half court and not just the full court. And what happened then, we would double, easy pass inside, dunk. And that happened like 3 times in a row.
I was going to say the one that got me like so fired up and mad at, I mean, I don't think this is on Darren because I'm sure Darren lit him up in the locker room after. But like 3 consecutive plays. It wasn't like it was throughout the game. It was like 3 consecutive plays in a row. I think it might have been during that press towards the end of the game when we were starting to make a comeback, and it was just that they kept matching in everything. Every shot was they got to the half court, a guard would drive, Eduardo Andre would come over for help defense, pump Eduardo's in the air, and they had an easy bounce pass to their center. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, they had it a few times whenever. Yeah, you're talking about the help defense.
Yeah, Jaden. I don't want to butcher that name. Jaden Quaintance.
I think so.
He was their second leading scorer. He had 15, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks. I mean, he had a heck of a night. He was as advertised. And that's what you're going to do when you have a short team with a short rotation and you're playing a team with a decent rotation, and especially guys that are taller, and you're not giving 100% effort, you're going to get out rebounded. Like, there's no ifs and buts about it.
That's what lost us the game, rebounding. Like, even for most of the game, our defense was solid. We held them to a bad shooting percentage until late in the game. Because, like I was saying, we changed our defense around. That allowed them to put points up, and we couldn't score.
Well, so I didn't quite get to this question earlier, but talking about the rebounds, it felt like, Iowa State, we weren't going for offensive rebounds. And here, I mean, obviously it looks like we weren't going for offensive rebounds stats-wise. I didn't get to go to this game, but do you think that's intentional, like just go straight to defense? Because it worked for Iowa State. It's like, don't leave a man on the other end of the court. There were like no fast breaks against the Cyclones.
Sometimes it's worth setting up the half-court defense as well as not getting careless fouls. Like, you don't want to be pressing and get a really bad foul on him trying to dribble past you. That's sort of the principle. And then when you have a team like Iowa State, who we knew was struggling shooting, there's no point in playing a press. Because if you do, it's going to leave somebody open for a drive. So for Iowa State, it was just get back and protect the rim. But for this team, we really just tried to strip the ball away from them at all costs because we knew the easier the shot, the more likely we were to score. And we had an easier time creating our shots off of defense than we did actually in our half-court offense.
Bad game. Just get better, please.
Don't rank us.
Get well soon.
Yeah, don't rank us. The last thing I want to say, and I'm ready to move on if y'all are. I don't think Tucker and Jaden Stone are coming back. So if this is the effort and it's not because lack of effort, it's simply because they're tired, then you've got to figure something out with somebody else off the bench. Like, somebody else has got to come in and play meaningful minutes if it's tiring us out that much that we're losing to somebody that was 1-5 in conference play.
I do want to say, before we move on, this is my last thing. I'm not superstitious about it. You're going to have bad games, especially when you're hitting the ground hard every single day. You're going to get worn out. We don't have the depth. But, when we're on, we can beat anybody. And we've shown that time and time again this season, which is awesome. So I look forward to us winning a lot more games in the coming weeks.
That's why I'm not worried.
I still think we're a tournament team. We just can't give in to something like this.
I saw, before we go to the women, I saw yesterday before the game that, what's his name, Joel Klatt for March Madness, Fox Sports, CBS, whoever it is, made early bracket prediction, and he had us as a 6th seed going into Michigan State's area. I forget exactly where they play.
There were several bracketologies out that were...
Right. That's the main one I saw. But then today, after the Arizona State loss, I got a notification from ESPN that said West Virginia's tourney hopes may be in jeopardy.
Well, I mean, if you're losing games to Arizona State, that's not surprising. I mean, we're 4-3 in conference. It's not like we're undefeated in conference. We don't have the greatest conference record now.
But I don't know. I know that it's going to be our worst game. I mean, there's a small chance I could be wrong, but I know it's our worst game. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I think we're a tournament team. I think we'll be fine, no matter where we go. As long as you make the tournament, that is a successful season in my books, especially with a first-year head coach.
Yeah.
Who looks like he has a bright future here.
I am slightly concerned because Iowa is supposed to be pushing out their head coach towards the end of the season. Iowa is where Darren is from. So if Iowa, and he's having clear success at West Virginia, so if Iowa comes out and offers him a bag.
Isn't that kind of a step down from us, though, realistically?
I think it is, but money-wise, it might not be because of the Big Ten status.
Dude, I wish we still had Jerry West to actually talk some sense into people.
Rest in peace, his soul. I don't think Darren is gone after 1 year.
I saw Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty came out and said Don't chase the bag. Go where you belong.
What a man.
Wisdom. All right,
Dude.
let's move on to women.
All right. So women on Sunday, the day after the men played Iowa State, we played Iowa State. The women played Iowa State on Sunday. We won 82-68. This game at one point was a really wide margin. I think we were up by 30 at one point, literally. Iowa State's been having some issues this year. Last year, they looked like a real contender with Audie Crooks, who is still probably the perennial sophomore in women's college basketball. But she had an off night. She only had 10 points. I'm pretty sure. You're looking at the team stats.
Yeah, I'm looking at team stats.
Yeah, from what I recall, I think she only had 10 points. We won the rebounding margin, definitely won the turnover margin. And it's classic West Virginia women's basketball.
Rebounding was close, though. We only won it by one. Turnovers is what did it. But, I mean, that's about the story of every women's basketball game.
Yeah. Classic West Virginia women's basketball. What do you got, Matt? What did you take away from this game? I don't know if you watched it or not, but
I was there. We played well. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 in double digits scoring wise. That would be Jordan Harrison, Kaya Watson, JJ, and Celia Riviere coming off the bench. So good game from a lot of us. Yeah.
This is actually this is kind of funny because if you look at the overall team stats outside of the 25-12 turnover margin, everything is super similar, and field goal percentage wise, Iowa State beat us. Mm-hmm. They were 50% from the field. We were 42. 3-point percentage was essentially 30 for both teams, and then rebounding was 35-34.
Well,
it is
so
just turnovers.
Take that efficiency, the shooting efficiency, and we shot 23 more than they did.
Well, that's what happens when you have
Right.
a
turnover.
plus 13 turnover margin.
Yeah, they were on it. Defensively, especially, was really good. And then we shot pretty well. We shot 42% and 30%.
you got to be disciplined as a team on offense to not turn the ball over. I mean, you even go back and look at the men's game that we were just talking about. Arizona State had 15 turnovers, but we only had 6, which proves to me we're the more disciplined team, but the shooting got us. So in this game, I think the reason the turnovers helped out so much, we got the 23 extra shots, you said?
Yeah, it's close. Yeah,
It
it's
was
23.
purely created by turnovers, like the fast break points.
Well, points off turnovers is 26-8.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the difference.
It's crazy.
You've got to, if you're going to turn the ball over, you can't let them score on the other end, and West Virginia is forcing turnovers and scoring on the other end.
And JJ was our leading scorer in this game with how many points?
20.
20 points. Yeah, so that proves to me everybody got a hand in the game.
The men's team needs to take a page out of this book in just doing what you do against the, I don't want to say lesser competition, but the teams that you should beat.
Looking at both of these teams, our men's and women's basketball teams, we are both comparatively undersized. And the way that our women's team gets it done is wreaking havoc on defense and causing so many turnovers. Like sometimes, like if you guys have ever been to a women's game, they announce the turnover battle like every 5 minutes or so. And it's kind of crazy whenever the girl announcer says, like, and that's 40 turnovers, which...
They have said it before.
Yeah, it's a crazy number, but, like, somehow, if you've been to multiple women's games, you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, man, that's just who we are.
Keep them coming.
That's West Virginia basketball.
Exactly.
I got excited yesterday. I mean, we were down, so I wasn't that excited about it, and I felt like we were going to lose at that point. But when West Virginia, the men's basketball team, started pressing, and we were winning the press battle. I mean, we forced turnovers pressing them, and it reminded me of Press Virginia days. And I so wish that we had a large enough rotation that we could bring back Press Virginia.
We could. I mean...
Because that's what the women does. That's what the women's team does.
That's what they do. Dude, Kellogg and DeVries are exceptional coaches.
Yes.
Exceptional. Anything to take out of this game, I feel like...
Keep the momentum rolling.
Stay healthy.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, and especially for our men's team with this underman rotation. Message to both teams: stay healthy, because the way you guys win basketball games, the way you guys need to win basketball games is scrappy.
Yeah.
And causing turnovers and being aggressive.
Sincere took a couple big hits yesterday that scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
He's gotten beat around this year pretty well.
And I saw Javon was grabbing at his leg last night too. Could just be a little tightness from again playing a lot, but you gotta be wary of that. And literally just before we started recording this, the women were playing Arizona State.
Another big
Arizona.
dub. Like I said, keep the. What did I just say? Keep the momentum rolling. There it is.
As of a few minutes ago, we beat Arizona State 89-59 on the road. JJ Quinterly with how many points?
29. So
29
close.
points on
So-
10 for 18 shooting.
Yeah, 29 on 10 for 18. Perfect from the field goal.
Blackston popped off. I know.
Yeah, she had
24 points.
We
Yeah.
were setting up the whole setup here, and we have a TV behind the camera. We were watching the game as we were setting stuff up. And, we watched Blackston hit some threes. The improvement that she has made over the past couple years that I've been able to go to women's games and watch her play has been tremendous, truly.
Kaya had 11 rebounds, so she's locking down the rebounds, and then Jordan Harrison had 8 assists to only 3 turnovers. This one was actually a game where the women's team, they won the turnover battle but not by a ton. It was 19-11, but again, it goes back to, are you taking those turnovers and maximizing the opportunity? And they had 11 turnovers and only turned that into 6 points, and we had 19, or I'm sorry, they forced 11 turnovers, only turned it into 6 points. We forced 19 turnovers and turned it into 24 points.
Number one, looking at the game stats, we shot 50% from the field overall. That should tell you that we got a lot of clean looks, and a lot of those are from turnovers.
Yeah.
Number two, you're forcing 19 turnovers on the road. I don't care who you're playing. If you're on the road and you force 19 turnovers, that's a really, really good performance on defense. So, again, that's who we are. That's how we got to play.
We've been talking about, I don't really know what to say here because this, like we were talking about against Iowa State, this looks like a typical, I know we were just watching it and we're looking at the team stats now. It looks like a typical West Virginia women's basketball game. Won the rebound, won the turnover battle, and maximized the opportunity on the turnovers.
Absolutely.
That wins you the game.
That's what you got to do. Like I said earlier, stay healthy, keep doing it, keep in the rotation, make sure you don't play too many minutes, especially on a road trip. You'll be good to go. Who are the women playing next? If you can pull up a schedule.
Oh, I don't know.
I got us here.
I think it's gonna get a little harder before the tourney time.
So our next game is at Arizona, then Oklahoma State at home, and then Kansas at home. Those are our next 3 going into the start.
Didn't Oklahoma
February.
State just get a big win?
They did just get a big win. They just beat TCU.
So that's one of our losses this year. So it's going to be a tough matchup.
So now Kansas State is currently leading the Big 12 in women's basketball standings.
So this is probably the toughest stretch, right, of games that we'll have.
Arizona, again, that's going to have to be a take-care-of-business game, just like tonight. But then you look at Kansas State, that's going to be a big game. I know they're missing their star player, which I forget her name. Matt knows her name for Kansas
You
State.
asked me too fast. Ioka Lee.
Ioka Lee. Yeah, I remember going to the Big 12 tournament last year. We played them, and JJ almost hit the game winner. Oh, my gosh, that would have been insane. It literally, rimmed in and out when she shot it.
Heartbreaking.
Robbed.
Yeah. But overall, good tourney performance nonetheless. I think we win that game without her. Home atmosphere, especially if it's on a weekend. I don't know if it's on a weekend, but if it is, people are going to show up and show out for that game.
Yeah, so Oklahoma State on February 1st, and then Kansas on the 5th. Oklahoma State beat us when we were on the road.
Oklahoma State is still statistically the number 1 rated offense in the Big 12.
It'll be a tough game.
I would like to see a big win there, especially since it's a home game.
We'll be at that one, so.
Need a big crowd, so anyone watching, if you're in the area at the time, you don't want to miss it.
Dude, I'm telling you, everybody watching, go to the women's games. They are better than you think, and it means...
It is. You can keep going, sorry.
Yeah, I was saying, it means a lot to them, and it means a lot to the university. Again, they're better than you think. Ticket prices are so cheap, too.
Yeah, and they do a lot of promos. Like, I think it was at the last game. Actually, I think it was at the men's game for Iowa State. They said they put like a QR code, and they said if you scan this, you can come back tomorrow for the women's game against Iowa State. $5 tickets.
Yeah.
So they do a lot of promos, And season tickets are cheap. When I'm not a student here, if I'm in the area, I'm totally getting season tickets.
Yeah.
If I might add, they also do a bunch of giveaways. During the Jerry West game, they were giving out those Jerry West T-shirts, the old school style T-shirts, and all you had to do was be an organ donor. They said if you had your license and could show that you were an organ donor, you got a free T-shirt.
That's awesome. All right, Jet hasn't talked this entire
and
show.
I know somebody specifically that he likes watching on the basketball team. Big fan.
Let's hear it.
Those of you at home need to listen carefully. We need more Donnell. I was very disappointed because I went the whole game without seeing her play until like the last 5 minutes of the game. She needs to be on the court more. That's all I'm going to say.
We won by 30 today, and I don't even see her marked down for any garbage time minutes.
She didn't even play.
So I'm curious if is she a senior, and I don't know. I don't even know what year she is. I'm curious if she's redshirting. Is my point.
Wait, hold on. Is she?
No, she didn't get any minutes today.
No, she had 7 against the Cyclones. 7 minutes. I see her as a senior, according to ESPN.
Oh,
Destiny.
Okay, Destiny. I was trying to look. I saw DNA.
Yeah, no.
So, yeah, I agree. Donnell, if you're watching this, and it'll probably be on our socials, and we're going to tag you. We try to tag as many people as we can for the basketball team. So we're going to start doing the same with football whenever football season comes back around. But if you see this, Max is literally your number one fan. Literally your number one fan.
And we'd love to have you on the show.
We'd love to have anyone on the show. Donnell, we'd love to have you on the show. Anyone on the women's team, anyone on the men's team, for sure. We will not hesitate to ask.
We have somebody in mind for the future for our first guest. Still working some things out. But to know, we'd love to have you on as well.
Wink, wink, huh?
I am your number one fan.
I'm telling you.
Give him an autograph. Sign his hat.
Sign my favorite beanie.
You should bring a Sharpie to the next game or a pen or something.
I'm at almost every single women's game. You can find me there.
Whenever we win a game and they start doing the country roads loop, just ask her then. Hopefully she sees this by then.
See this?
We'll tag her.
You know me.
Yeah, we'll tag her.
I'm very noticeable. I have a very noticeable appearance.
You got
No
new
one's
glasses.
I got new glasses.
New glasses, they look good.
You need to make that your new Instagram bio. I have a very noticeable appearance.
I will change that right after we stop filming.
Yeah, let's go. By the way, we're going to be getting some Cold Country merch here soon, which we will debut on the show. And if we get enough interest, it might go up. Just saying.
We're going to drop the first merch,
Dude.
baby. Volume 1.
It might, but you guys got to show out for us. So,
I'm here for it.
all right. Let's move on
Finish
from
with basketball. Been going for a while on basketball.
Yep, let's move on from basketball. I can talk basketball all day, boys.
I can too. I like basketball. We played during this game because we kind of lost interest, just like half the other
Half the freaking country.
Yeah,
lost
half the
interest in
college
this
football
game.
fans.
I saw the ratings for this game were down. I'm not sure how much. I didn't get into the specifics, but it was an ESPN.
Poorer than previous year's performance, that's
yeah.
for sure.
We are, of course, talking about the national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. The Buckeyes take this one 34-23 after a late surge from Notre Dame that wasn't quite good enough to get the job done. I will let Tyler take away what he saw in this game because this is kind of what I expected. A little bit more high scoring than I expected, but nonetheless.
I saw the exact reason why college football is being ruined slowly but surely.
Dropping a bomb.
No, is in terms of gameplay, Ohio State just outmatched Notre Dame, and I think that's what we all expected. I picked Notre Dame because I said over and over again that Ohio State was playing way too good for way too many games in a row, that they were going to drop one eventually, and they proved me wrong. So congratulations, Buckeyes. Ryan Day finally got over the hump. Outside of that first drive where they went, 18 plays, 75 yards in like 10 minutes or something, I saw where it was a college football playoff record, the longest drive.
The Riley Leonard touchdown.
Like
was
an
insane.
absolute ridiculous drive. And I genuinely think that it was just they had that one scripted up They were having success on first and second down, getting to third and shorts. They converted 2 fourth downs on that drive. It was just that one was the one like it was a Neil Brown game. And I hate to bring him back up. I don't mean to do that. Like I don't mean that to be shady, but like it was a Neil Brown game. You had an excellent first drive, and then you fell flat completely the rest of the game. And I don't know if it was Ohio State made better adjustments, but they were still scoring. They were playing better defense, and Notre Dame wasn't scoring until there at the very end. I do want to say Emeka Egbuka almost sold because it was, I think it was 23-31, so an 8-point game, and Emeka Egbuka fumbled the ball. Notre Dame, I don't remember who it was, but a Notre Dame player punched it out, and it gave Notre Dame a sliver of hope. So it was a good game, kind of, towards the end there, a little lightly, but for the most part, Ohio State controlled it. Congratulations to Ryan Day. Even though you still have a Michigan problem, you are a national championship. You got over a national champion. You got over the hump. You won the big one. And probably the hardest path to win a college football playoff ever.
You want to talk about how they shouldn't have been in the playoff?
They should have been in a 12-team playoff, but I can elaborate on why it is everything that is wrong with college football.
Because we've only talked about this 100 times.
I know.
But
We need to dedicate
I feel like
the beginning of a show to that.
I think we could probably stand and have a whole show where we just sit down and really flesh out what you want to see. What does a college football playoff mean? What it should mean? How to balance that with the importance of the regular season? I think we could get into that.
Should we agree to save this?
On another time.
Well, I mean, we're here. We're only 50 minutes in, and we don't have
Something like
a
that.
I'm just
ton
saying
to talk about.
I'm just saying this. Should we agree to save this until after March Madness? Because we want to focus on basketball.
Well, I think we
While
should do
it's
that.
still
I think we
happening.
need to do. If we're going to talk about it, it needs to be fresh on our minds and before like we get to the heart of basketball season, which is March Madness.
So you just want to go into it?
I think we should because it's right here, right now.
I think overview now, deep dive later.
We can do
That's
that.
my vote.
We can do that.
I thought we did an overview
I
last
agree with
week.
that.
We do an
But-
overview every week.
It seems like it.
If we're a college sports podcast, okay? We specialize in West Virginia sports, no doubt. But we are a college sports podcast, and playoffs and what I said earlier about how this playoff run exemplifies everything that is wrong with college football is a part of that. I'm very passionate about it because I hate that the Buckeyes were able to do what they were in the regular season and then go on the path to win the national championship despite them probably being the best team this year. So I think it's important to talk about. But I mean, you all know my.
I'm glad we
opinions.
all agree.
You all know my opinions. I can reiterate them.
Why don't you tell America what your opinions are?
Okay. First,
He's locking in.
lock it because, like I said, I'm
He's
very,
in it to win it,
very
ladies and
passionate about
gentlemen.
it. Congratulations, Ohio State. You deserve to win this. You probably had the hardest path to call the national championship. It's probably the most impressive national championship run that we have seen because you had to beat 4 teams, not 2, or you weren't just declared a national champion. That does not take away from the fact that the 12-team playoff was a failure in my eyes, despite some awesome games, because it has completely, not completely, but the games that mattered the most before no longer matter in the regular season. We've talked about it before. But then secondarily, I feel like this kind of proves, and not that this wasn't true before either, because of tampering and under-the-table deals and stuff, but you can straight up buy a national championship. Ohio State had the most expensive roster. They won. I feel like that's kind of one in and itself.
I did see, I think Texas and Oregon had more spent on the roster.
They do. Oregon has unlimited NIL
Because of the Nike.
Yeah, because of Phil Spencer. That's his name, right? CEO of Nike.
I don't know his name, but
That's
I
a good
know
question.
the relation.
I'll make sure of that as you guys talk, but I don't want to.
No, it's definitely the Nike guy, but
Yeah, it is.
I'm not
him.
good with- I'm not good with
I just
names.
want to know his name.
But regardless, I mean, you can now in this era, you can lose 2 games in the regular season, one of them to your primary rival, a 7-5 team, and it make no difference.
Philip Knight, not Philip Spencer. Philip Knight.
You can not play in your conference championship, and as long as you spend a bunch of money, you're going to be there and you're probably going to win. That's my opinion on it.
I think as soon as NIL came into play, it became relatively clear that money talks above anything else, and the big market teams were solidified to have an advantage, and it was marketed to us as an opportunity for the smaller schools to step up their game. But clearly, I don't think that the financial capital is there for those schools.
Here's my thing, right? And I'll talk less about the 14 playoff to 12-team playoff being bad because we've talked about it before, but more specifically, the fact that Ohio State was essentially able to buy a national championship, even though they had to win their way there. At least in the playoff, they had to win their way there, not in the regular season. My problem is that if you're going to have NIL and pay players, fine. You've opened the Pandora's box. There is no closing it. It is what it is. Okay, if you close it, you've got lawsuit issues. There is a ton of antitrust lawsuits out there that are like open to the public to see, that are players suing the NCAA or players suing conferences, institutions because they were treated incorrectly. Because the NCAA and college football is making all this money, and the product is the players, and they're not getting a cent of it. So, whatever. If you want to play players, that's fine. The problem is you have NBA players, NFL players, professional sports players. They get paid. There's a cap on players, and there's a minimum on players, and that is the only way you're going to open up NIL and paying players and it be semi-fair to the smaller schools. If you just say, hey, you can pay players to come to your school, the biggest schools with the most monies are always going to have the most talented team. And we've had this discussion before, but the talent differential, like football, is so chalky. 99% of the time, the better team by a far margin is going to win the game. So if they can go out and buy those players with no cap, that is an issue. But where that leads, though, it's like a never-ending chain reaction, because if you set a salary cap and you set a salary minimum, you have to open up collective bargaining, and you have an agency that is bargaining for these student athletes, and there has never been a league that has collective bargaining that doesn't also have a draft. And so, what are you going to do? Draft players out of high school? That's the chain reaction that you're headed to. There has to be limitations set.
And at that point, there's no difference between the NFL and NCAA.
No, none at all. Like, if you want to go down that path, and that's the path that you're headed down, you're going to, did you hear that stutter?
No.
I'm sorry. That was funny.
America, flame them in the comments.
I watched a video the other day called "You'll Never Look at College Football the Same." The big boy brands, Big Ten and SEC, are too focused on short-term profit and not looking at long-term profit. What you're headed towards is the SEC and Big Ten expanding to 20, 24 teams, creating a super league, and that's it. You're going to have a group of 30, 40 teams that are the best of the best, and they're going to separate from everybody else because of the same reason that USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington left the Pac-10. Oregon and USC is asking themselves, hey, I'm the big boy in the Pac-12. Why am I giving Stanford a piece of the pie? So that same thing is going to continue to happen, and you have NFL Light. And despite that maybe giving you a spike in short-term profit, you're going to lose viewers of smaller schools, which is your long-term profit. It is not only a bad business decision, it is a bad decision in terms of fans for college football are going to stop watching, and we can see that. The viewership was down, and it's not only because it just happened to be down this year. You've got national championships on a Monday because you're basically submitting to the NFL that, hey, we're not our own thing. You guys can just walk all over us. You've got a national championship so far into the NFL playoffs that it almost seems like an exhibition game that is just being played before NFL Sunday, where you're getting NFL wild card and divisional round matchups. You've got two teams that are blue bloods that are there because they can spend the most money. There's a problem, and it needs to be fixed. And I will give Ryan Day props. Earlier today, Josh Pate tweeted out that Ryan Day called for 3 conference commissioners in college football, and that's what needs to be happen. That's what needs to happen. There needs to stop being so much allowance from these conferences that are just out to make more money, and there needs to be an overarching figure to watch over the betterment of the sport and not just the betterment of their pockets.
Fair enough.
Good luck with that.
Well,
Is my opinion.
Yeah. Max, you were hunching over the mic. Do you want to say anything? You don't have to. I was just wondering.
No, I was just looking at the camera.
Yeah,
It's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, no jet camera for this part of the.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We got the important part out, but
He's going to be back there dancing. And
I'm just gonna be
America will
dancing and
not
making
know.
weird faces, and y'all won't know.
America, if you hear a random giggle, that's what it is.
Maybe.
Anyway, for you guys watching, let us know what you think of the college football playoffs and the problem with it. Is it the format? Is it the NIL?
It's everything. It just exemplifies everything.
Let us know what you think for sure. Would anyone hate if we went back to BCS format?
No. Did you ever watch that video I sent you?
Which one? Both,
Either.
Both
Either.
or no?
Both are, okay. Then why'd you
Both.
ask which one?
That's funny.
Okay.
Funny to me.
I believe you. I don't think the BCS format is the answer, but it is far better than what we have now, and I will
Agree.
stand on that opinion. I'm surprised you actually agreed with it, because I thought you were of the opinion that you disagreed with my takes towards the 14 playoff.
I honestly liked BCS because it seemed like, I know we were a way better football team back then, but it gave us a chance. You know what I mean? The way it was formatted, it gave us a chance.
That's my whole issue. And every time I have a debate about it with somebody is like, their argument is you're giving more teams a chance to win the national championship. No, you're not. Just because you're giving them a spot in the playoff does not mean they have a chance to win it. And I think that was exemplified by the games that you saw SMU at Penn State or Clemson playing Texas.
Yeah, I think it's like statistically harder.
Yeah, well, no, it is, because you have to win. If you don't win your conference and you're not top 4, you have to win 4 games in a row against the best of the best teams in college football.
That's correct, but can I say that Ohio State wouldn't have been in because of their bad losses? Or a
And
good loss and then a bad loss.
My argument to that is, okay, did
Right,
you
but
deserve to
They're
be?
getting a chance. So you can't say you're not getting a chance. You are getting a chance.
But, okay,
it's just
so
harder.
A
It's
blue
a harder
blood
chance.
is getting
Yeah.
a chance. There's a difference between a blue blood getting a chance and you're just going to flood the field with blue blood 10-2 teams that messed up in the regular season and make it impossible for the smaller teams that had really good seasons that went 11-1, 12-0 to beat them. Like a 12-0, no, a 10, let's say BYU didn't slip up against Kansas. Well, an 11-1 BYU team meets Ohio State in the playoff. Is that ever? That's not gonna. They're not gonna win. I don't care. BYU was an amazing team this year, and Arizona State proved that the Big 12 teams can hang in there with SEC and Big 10 teams. But even if BYU makes it past a blue blood 10-2 team like Ohio State, like Notre Dame, like Texas, they're not gonna win 3 in a row like that, because football is chalky. You're gonna have the better team win majority of the time
Got to play the games.
in
I
the
like-
regular season.
Sure. And Ohio State wouldn't have been in, depending on how many teams
Would you have preferred the BCS this year or the 4? The BCS would have been Oregon versus Georgia.
That would have been the game, I feel like.
I don't know. I like having more football. I think it went a little long, like you were saying, past the regular season.
But that was the whole thing. It was in the pursuit of entertainment and money.
Yeah, and I like the entertainment. I mean, money's great, right? But
Well, I'll never
I don't know.
say that the games aren't great to watch. Like I watched almost every. I think the only game I did not get to watch was the Texas Clemson game.
you didn't miss much.
That was the only one I did not get. No, I lied. That one and Ohio State, Tennessee. Those were the only 2 games I did not get to watch.
Arizona
really didn't
State
miss
and
much.
Texas was a sham.
Yeah.
That's another issue. So officiating has got to be fixed.
Oh my God.
It's terrible.
So remind me again in the BCS format, just because we're thinking about it. I can't remember for sure. What do the conference titles mean in the BCS format? Because I know like the national championship game is just number 1 and number 2.
So it doesn't in technicality mean anything because you don't have an auto bid, but it's just another game for a team to prove themselves. So say you've got 12-0 Alabama in the regular season and 12-0 Oregon in the regular season. If Oregon is playing a 9-3 Pac-12 team that meets them in the Pac-12 championship, in previous years, obviously we don't have a Pac-12 anymore.
Utah, maybe, just for example.
Utah, and then Alabama meets a 12-0 or 11-1 Georgia team in the SEC championship. It's a test. So if Oregon goes on and wins by a small margin, and Alabama wins by a large margin, are you going to take the Oregon team that won by a small margin against a worse team than Alabama that blew out Georgia and has the better team?
It's just an extra game.
So, although there isn't a built-in benefit like auto bid to the playoff, that doesn't mean they don't matter. Because you look at last year, Oregon-Washington Pac-12 championship was a playoff game. Alabama-Georgia SEC championship ended up being a playoff game. Those were playoff games. That's what I miss. Because Ohio State just won the national championship. They didn't even play in the Big Ten championship. Notre Dame's independent. You did not have a team that played in a conference championship in the national championship. I'll go too long if we keep going, but
That's funny.
I just think it's messed up. We're thinking too much in terms of short-term filling our pockets with money and not enough long-term filling our pockets with money and betterment of the sport.
If you think about it, I said this to you guys, but I'll say it on here. ESPN runs the whole shebang, right? National championship, playoffs are all
ESPN
aired.
and Fox.
Yeah.
And Fox.
They're all aired on ESPN. I think Fox is its own entity. I think.
Well, ESPN and Fox both are.
But ESPN is owned by Disney. Disney is a entertainment company. So they're going to look for maximum entertainment and maximum profit. That's kind of what their deal is going to be. Hopefully it doesn't mean altering games, but that's kind of the deal. They're going to look to maximize profit, and they're going to look for the maximum entertainment value. I think that's why the 12-team playoff was pushed forward as fast as it was. I feel like in past years, it would have taken 3 years for it to go through a legislation body before it was implemented. But it seemed like the 12-team playoff was a discussion for like 2 months, and then all of a sudden it was there.
I think we expanded way too much, way too fast.
I agree.
Like, the whole thing about expanding was not enough teams were getting a chance. Okay, fine. Let's expand to 6 teams from 4 and see how that goes. And if that works, let's keep it at 6. If it doesn't work, then expand more. Because now the problem is you're at 12. There is no going back. Like I said with the NIL deal, you've opened the Pandora's box. You can't close it. You're at 12. The only way forward is expanding again to 14, which is what they're talking about for 2026. That just makes it worse. Sure, you have more postseason games, but the more teams you add, the less value you put on what makes college football so great, and that is the theatrics of the regular season.
I agree with you entirely. The regular season is what college football is all about. Like, at least that's easy for us to say watching a team that's never won a national championship. But that's where the meat and potatoes of football are.
That's why I say the BCS system is the better than what this is. And it may even be better than the 14 playoff. I would have to do some comparing and soul searching about what I value about college football. But I
Jit,
said this.
Jit wants to say something.
You go for it, Jit.
Okay, I'm going to get a little bit into this, because I have some stuff to say too.
I'm liking it.
Okay.
Because I've heard both your points, and I'm like, I agree with you guys fully, but I want to take like a more dissective approach onto it.
Okay.
If you think about it, like the roots of college football are for entertainment, as we've established. Entertainment has been a thing for how the human condition, because it brings us dopamine and we enjoy it. It's something that like we've always enjoyed, like in those different forms. Now that we're in sort of a system where these sort of entertainment things can be harnessed and pushed and like prodded, as Ian has said, with like quote unquote Disney owning ESPN and wanting more theatrics and more something at the end, and how you've
That's
said,
that's not confirmed. Those are my thoughts.
those are your thoughts. I know that, but I'm taking that into account of what I'm saying. I'm saying that I feel like the soul of college football is sort of being like prodded.
It is.
It's very much being prodded, and if we keep like how like we've all seen movies, like we've all watched movies, and we've all seen our favorite sort of series like die. Like I can say like in Marvel, when like they're putting out all these doo-doo feces movies, and
Oh,
good way to
Star
say it.
Wars. Rest in peace, Star Wars.
like they've done that. I feel like even though college football is a very real thing, it's not made up. It's a real thing. There's real people doing real sports, real time, right? We've seen it happen. I feel like it's harder to kind of sort of mess with this, but I feel like in all honesty, it's they want the factor of like they want everything to be more and more and more. And that's just how we are these days. It's how we are as a society in America. We want more. That's just how it is and how it always will be. I'm just saying is I really wish we could just keep it to we're doing these games how we're supposed to. These men are on this field and they're playing these games because they want to be there. They enjoy this. And us as the viewers, we enjoy watching them. I don't think we should change how this is happening. I don't know the structure. Like you're talking about different formats. I'm leaving that to you. But for me, as someone who is like a media consumer, as someone who's been to many football games on like many different levels, I feel like we really need to push the brakes on this and say, hey, like this is something that America has built. And I don't want some like bunch of like groups taking apart our sport and creating it into like just a pure form of entertainment that like our players will just be like, why are we doing this? Like, I'm not finding enjoyment out of that. I don't think they're saying that, but we're starting to go in that direction, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to see us on the field watching stuff or like somehow we see them play and we're just seeing like soulless people playing a soulless game because it could get to that, and I don't want that to happen. That's all I'm gonna say.
We're
That's
gonna
it.
reach AI robots playing football.
That's
for
exactly
entertainment.
what I was thinking.
I think that is the most intellectual thing you have ever said on this podcast.
Is that a diss or like a compliment? Both.
I feel like that's a compliment.
It is a compliment.
I can say this stuff all the time. Just like point to me and I'll start speaking.
I liked your movie analogy, especially when you brought up Star Wars. It's like the BCS is the originals. And then we reached the 2000s. We expanded to the 14 playoff, expanded conferences a little bit, and that was the prequels of Star Wars. And then we've reached this point to where we're releasing the sequels, and we're just juicing this sport for every ounce of profit we can, despite the product we're putting out.
Can I point out? I said Star Wars. He brought up Marvel. Those are both owned
Disney.
by Disney now.
Those are both
And
owned
now
by Disney.
Disney's running college football.
Funny how entertainment works, isn't it?
Interesting.
I have one more thing to say.
Go for it.
It's like I just thought of like a graph, like of a sort of thing, and I kind of thought of like cars in a sense, like an analogy. Kind of my dad and I talked about like Fords aren't made like there used to be. Like the trucks aren't made like there used to be. When COVID happened, like my dad's 2018 F-250 was more than a one that was on the lot new.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it this way, like you can see like this is like you guys can't see me right now, but like I'll remind me the next like episode and I'll do this again, but they can see me so they can kind of describe it to you. Like this is college football here, and like we're going up, right? We're going up, and like it's juicing it normally, right? We hit a plateau, it goes straight forward down the line, just like that.
You think we're at the plateau?
We are not there yet.
I think we've dipped a little bit.
We can turn around.
I think we've dipped a little bit past the plateau.
I wanted to point that out. Is I think it can get better. And one of the videos I sent you, I don't remember which one it was, but he was pointing out that there was a point in time in the NFL before the draft was implemented. It was just 3 or 4 teams were dominating the NFL because it was all the best college football players wanted to go to these 3 or 4 teams that were dominating the NFL. And 2 of the owners of the 2 teams, I want to say it was Bears Packers, but I'm not 100% sure. And I can't remember the names of the guys. They were the ones who come up with the idea of a draft, knowing that it would hurt their program in the long run, but it would help the product of national football because all teams would be on a more equal footing, competing for one another and making a more fair game. So I don't think we're, like Jit said, at the plateau of endless hopelessness.
We've used it for all it's got.
Yeah. We're not there just yet, but we're close.
And notice how you said product.
Yeah.
College football shouldn't be a product.
I agree.
We should not think of it as something we can buy in a store and use. This is not something we should see it by, because it's something that like is, I wouldn't say spiritual, I'd say pseudo-spiritual to people, because people hold it in such a high regard that people make traditions and rituals for this thing. Tons of people like
rituals makes it sound a little culty.
No, rituals are, if you think of rituals as a word in the sense of something that you do every single year, people have Super Bowl parties. People go to the first game of the Mountaineer season every year. I know people that do. We shouldn't think of this as a product, as something that's manufactured. This should be something that's natural. Sports have been around since the beginning of time. They are entertainment centered around someone that is using physical exertion to bring us some form of entertainment or wow factor. And it should not be manufactured. Because if we start manufacturing things, they'll seem synthetic. And what do we know about a product that is synthetic? It is harmful.
I like the word synthetic there because, like we were talking about with this Ohio State one, it almost seems synthetic. Ohio State was able to buy a $12 million roster, and they are the ones who won. It's just like the winner goes to the highest bidder. It's not just...
And you said buy. They bought something. We're using like product terms. Football is not a product. You shouldn't be able to buy into it, and it shouldn't be synthetic and manufactured. 3 things. 3 things that are alive in our sport today that shouldn't be. Football should be, you should earn your way into it from your performance. You should enjoy it. People should watch it because they do enjoy it. And it's something that's been around in this country for so long that I don't want to turn into something that's just manufactured. I don't want 100 synthetic Garrett Greens on the field. Yeah. You know, like I don't want I don't want like a bunch of like steroided up like high school seniors running around our Mountaineer field. Like that's not what I want. I want real football. Because there's a difference between something that's synthetic and natural. Synthetic is man-made, bought, produced product. And something that's natural is naturally occurring. Something that's brought about by the human condition instead of something that's manufactured and created by by people for entertainment purposes only. If like I remember like the magic, like I say magic, but like the magic of college football when I was younger is not the same magic I see today. And that is what's disappointing me. I could go on and on like Tyler right now, but like this is like my main point of this right now is I don't want to see our sport as something that's manufactured. And if they take down, like they as in the people who manufacture it, take down college football, what's next? Basketball. What else is next? Everything else can be manufactured, synthesized for our viewing and most entertainment, and that's not what college football is for. College football is for everyone to sit around on their couch or at the game and enjoy it, and it's for the players to enjoy what they're doing so they can keep playing, and then someone else comes along, and it's all about just the fun of competing against each other. We're not comparing each other, because if you compare someone, competition, like comparing someone to someone's worst competition, because like they bought their way, that's buying it. It's comparing it, comparative buying, like you're buying something, you're comparing it to something else, like you want the name brand or like the store brand, but I'm going off on a tangent.
I was gonna say you're getting a little left there, buddy.
I know. But my main point is, I don't want this amazing sport that we've cultivated in our country for the longest time to turn into something that can be bought on a shelf, because that is not what it's about, and that should never get to that point. And we're starting to get there, and that's what's making me sad.
Bingo.
That's well said.
I think we've got 200 and some odd days left before college football makes it returns. And in replace of the JIT pick, we need to add the JIT wisdom of the day. That was beautiful.
That was good.
I agree with this. I think we should have a JIT wisdom segment.
Yes.
My view on it is football means so much to us in West Virginia, especially because we have no professional sports teams. And it is one of the few things that represents us as a state, is our football team. And also, think about it. If you're a European and you think about America, football is one of the first things that will pop into your mind. It is such a unique sport. It's a homegrown sport, something that we entirely came up with. Again, like historically, it might have been derived from soccer or whatever the case may be, from rugby, but it is purely American. And if we think about it from this emotional standpoint, and then you look at the state of football today, and it's so profit-driven.
I would take it a step further, and not just football, but college football specifically. The amount of differences between the NFL and the college level, like the NFL is a playoff-driven sport. Like the most meaningful games happen in January and February when the playoffs are happening. College football is so different in that it's not 30 teams going after a Super Bowl. It's 132 teams going after the Backyard Brawl win, the Black Diamond Trophy, the Iron Bowl Trophy, the largest cocktail party in Florida, which I think is the name of Florida-Georgia rivalry or something like that. It's the traditions that you've built. Clemson running down the hill, the jump around for Wisconsin, the Auburn Magic in, I can't even think of their name of their stadium, but Auburn Magic in the name of their stadium. It's so much different than the NFL, and that is what fans of college football can connect to, whereas the NFL is such a I don't even know how to describe it. It's such like a specific product. It's football until the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl winner, that's in the NFL. That's not what it is in college football. There's so much more than just the national championship winner. And that's what I'm afraid we're going towards.
Yeah, and for us specifically, talking about West Virginia again, this state is so unique that this football team, these basketball teams, any team that plays for our university has the unique position of representing our people. And this university means so much more to our people than any other school can say about any other state.
Maybe Nebraska.
I'm serious. But Nebraska is just a plain Jane state. I haven't met anyone from Nebraska.
I have cousins from Nebraska.
Are they as
Cornhuskers?
passionate as I am? And are they as passionate as I am?
I'm gonna be so real. They're not. They like. I've been to a Nebraska game. I can say that I have. It is nothing like a Mountaineer game. I went to their version of Blue Lot, and I can say some words, but not on this podcast, about how boring it was. I was literally sitting in a lawn chair eating like a thing of French fries. I don't even know what I was eating. It was so boring. And my dad came up to me and he's like, "Hey, do you want to like?" I'm sorry, Dad, if you're watching this. I'm recalling. He's like, "Hey, do you want to go meet up with your cousin Payne and then go in and watch the game?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'd love to." We go in there. We're only there for like the first quarter, and then we leave. And my dad's like, "How do you think about that?" I'm like, "Not as good as other games that I've seen," referring to like a Mountaineer game, because I've seen those. Like, I was literally on my Nintendo 3DS the whole first quarter in Nebraska, and I'm gonna say that like, I'm sorry to the Cornhuskers, I'm sorry to my cousins, but I had to play Pokemon X and Y to get through that, and I never ever since before I came to this school, I was never on my phone during a Mountaineer game.
I'd like to ask, because I'm a fan of a team on the opposite coast, quite literally. I'm a Rams fan, so I've never had the opportunity of going to an NFL game. You have. You've been to a Pittsburgh game. Does it come close to the passion that you see in, say, the Penn State game earlier this year?
I'll put an asterisk beside of it, because the game that I went to, the Steelers played the Ravens.
Okay.
And that is a very heated rivalry in the NFL. I would put it at least top 3 most heated rivalries, maybe in professional sports, but at least in the NFL. Professional sports, not college sports. Professional sports. Like, those two teams hate each other.
See, I'm of the opinion that professional rivalries don't come close to matching college rivalries.
But the atmosphere, like, I'm going off of the fan play here.
Yeah.
The atmosphere was close to what you would get, like, us against Penn State. We're down, because the Steelers were down for most of that game until the end. It's a similar atmosphere of we're down, the game is still in reach, the fans are trying to motivate the players. It's loud in there. Like, there were 100,000 people in that stadium when I was there. Easily like 120 decibels. But what's crazy is that we can reproduce that same 120 decibels at Mountaineer Field with 60,000. And going off of what Jit said and what you guys have said, it just means so much more here, and it's different. It is a different energy. And that is probably our number one recruiting tool to people who come play for us. And
it's okay, guys.
Completely different.
It's okay. When I'm college football commissioner, I'm going to fix everything.
Yeah, I'd just like to say one more thing. I have seen an NFL game or two back down at home. And I would have to say it also is very different. It's similar but different. But I feel like it, like, I don't know, this came to mind right when I heard Ian talking. I feel like college football is gold and NFL is silver. Like, silver, you see it a lot. It's more polished. It's something that's like seen as more like a elegant and sort of thing. But gold is more like,
it's more valuable.
It's more valuable, but it's more rugged. And I'd have to say, like, I don't think anyone can replicate what's done on any college football field at the NFL because of the school spirit they have for each team. But a whole different brand of spirit is there when you go to an NFL game because it's like a people's team.
But you know what NIL is proving? Gold is malleable.
That's
college football is a cultural phenomenon that is trying to be muted.
Exactly. The analogies today are on point.
I feel like I brought a lot of wisdom today. I'm gonna bring some more next time.
I liked it.
I think we all have. Like,
you got
this has been a good episode.
Matt has been quiet for a while. We got about 5 minutes until we're gonna have to save the way too early top 25 segment.
Yeah, we've been going a while.
You got anything before we wrap up? Because you've been over there a minute stewing.
Would you buy an ESPN Plus subscription to watch games of, like, the Madden video game?
No, the only reason
I'd
I
watch
have
on Stream
one,
East.
The only reason I have ESPN Plus is so that I can watch our games because a lot of the time they're out of market. That's why I have one.
And I think that stinks. I would love for their, and I don't know, logistically how that would work out, but back in the day when you could just stick a copper wire on the back of your TV and get local stations, including sports, like that's what it needs to be. And I think we'll talk about conference alignment stuff later on, but regionally having the games it just means a lot more. Like you were talking about Black Diamond, the backyard brawl. But yeah, about like the video game, that gets into what we were saying earlier about how it becomes robotic. And I just think the spirit of the sport is why people come back to it, why people love it, why people devote their lives to it. And I don't want to see that taken away from it.
I think everybody in power needs to recognize that.
People in power are unfortunately Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti. And they have openly said they have no desire to benefit anything other than the SEC and Big Ten, unfortunately.
They have Twitter. We got to cook them on Twitter.
I have before. When Josh Pate sent out his thing earlier that Ryan Day had called for the anointing of 3 college football commissioners, one was going to be him. Who were the other 2? There was a response that was like, we don't need a conference commissioner. That's just going to be the people in power that have hidden agendas for the largest institutions. And I was like, dude, have you not met the SEC and Big Ten commissioners? They are literally what you just described. They are doing what's best for the biggest institutions in college football because they have the most money.
Yeah.
It's all money, money, money. It should be more about the spirit. They're trying to rip it apart and turn it into cash, and that's not what we need.
What's the solution? And that's what we'll talk about next time.
Absolutely.
Leave us on the cliffhanger.
I'm gonna be speaking some straight facts next time.
All right.
It wouldn't be fair of us to talk about the issues without providing a realistic solution.
Oh
So
yeah, I'm gonna
we
get
should.
a 5-paragraph essay ready. Bullet points.
Tyler
Next-
can ask
next.
ChatGPT.
Heck yeah. ChatGPT is excellent.
Well, all right, we're gonna end on that cliffhanger.
Of next time.
Yeah, we will provide a solution. We got so much to talk about over the next many years.
Yeah.
We're gonna be doing this. We plan to do this for as long as possible. This ain't a fling, right?
No.
This podcast is for real. You guys are like some of the best supporters. Like we got a lot of our family in this, which is the best part of it.
Absolutely.
But we're trying to build loyal WVU fans to come watch us, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. You're running the Twitter. It's going awesome. Me and you are working on the Instagram. It's going awesome.
I was going to start a TikTok up, but you know how that goes.
Things happen.
You got 75 days at least.
Life
They
is a
extended it.
cinema.
I wonder how many TikTok followers you think we could get if we started one right now.
In 75
I'll do
days.
It
the
seems like
TikTok.
you
I'll
get
do
a
the
lot
TikTok
of-
dances.
You get a lot of
gosh.
followers on TikTok compared to any other platform.
Maybe
It
we'll
is-
try
It is
that.
weird.
I'll shake my booty for the Cold Country podcast. Okay.
Oh, good
That
lord.
is, I repeat, that is going in. We can cut
Yes.
the last part.
Good
That's
lord.
going in.
My booty will be shaking for the Cold Country podcast.
Okay.
I will throw it back.
On that
All right.
note, Ian, send us home.
Let's wrap it up. All right, guys, for all you watching, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or X, and Facebook, where we have all our accounts. Your support is appreciated. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And that's going to do it for this episode. So from me, from Tyler, from Matt, and from Max, see you on the next one.
Good night,
Goodbye.
gamers.
Goodbye, America.